Hi guys, and welcome to the second video for graphing a rational function of the form y equals a over x minus h plus k. If you haven't watched the first video, I would advise going and do so, and also watching the video about graphing the asymptotes because they give you a little bit of background, and we're going to go kind of quickly through this particular example so we can get all the way through. Okay, so let's look at this from start to finish. So first off we're going to look at our equation and we're going to figure out what our asymptotes are. Okay, so remember that your vertical asymptote is x equals h. Okay, so h here is going to be negative 2, since in our original it's negative and this one's positive. So we have the vertical asymptote x equals negative 2, and then the horizontal asymptote is y equals k. Okay, so again, since this is a positive k and this is a negative, the opposite, our k is going to be negative 1, so we've got y equals negative 1. Okay, so once we've identified our asymptotes, now we have to graph them. So we're going to graph x equals negative 2. That's a vertical line over here at negative 2 on the x-axis. So we want to put a dashed line because the asymptote isn't really part of our graph. It's just for us to have there when we are graphing the actual part. Okay, and then the same thing here. We've got y equals negative 1. So that's the horizontal line right over here. And again, we want it to be dashed because it's really for us and not part of the actual graph itself. All right, so once you've done that, now what you're going to do is you're going to pick a couple of points to the left and a couple of points to the right of the vertical asymptote. All right, so this is going to depend on the numbers that you pick here are going to depend on whatever it is you have on your graph. Okay, so the vertical asymptote is x equals negative 2. So when we go to the left of that, we want to pick negative 3, negative 4, and negative 5. Okay, so that's where I got these numbers. And then you just plug them in. So when we plug in negative 3 here, negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. Negative 4 divided by negative 1 is positive 4, and then positive 4 minus 1 gives you a positive 3. Okay, and then I've already done these calculations, so I'm just going to kind of put them down here so we can graph them. You can check them yourself. So if you plug in negative 4, you end up with y as 1, and if you plug in negative 5, you end up with y as 1/3. All right, so now we're going to go graph those. Okay, so we've got the point negative 3 comma 3. So we go to the left 3 and up 3. So we've got this point right here. Okay, negative 4 comma 1. Again, we go left 4, up 1. And then negative 5 comma 1/3. So we'll go up just a little bit right there. Okay, and so those are our 3 points to the left of the vertical asymptote, and now we want to look at some points that are to the right of the vertical asymptote. Okay, so again, the vertical asymptote is here at x equals negative 2, and we're going to pick some points to the right, and namely I picked negative 1, 0, and 1. Okay, so again, you're going to plug these in. When you plug in negative 1 plus 2 is positive 1, negative 4 divided by positive 1 is negative 4, and negative 4 minus 1 is negative 5. Okay, so again, I know I went kind of quickly through that. Go ahead and check that work on your own if you want to. And when we plug these in, again, we're going to end up with when x is 0, y is negative 3, and when x is 1, y is negative 2 and 1/3. Okay, so we're going to plot these points same way. Okay, so x is negative 1, so that's down here, and then y is negative 5. We go down 5 to this point right here and put ourselves a lovely dot. When x is 0, y is negative 3, gives us a point right here, and then when x is 1, y is negative 2 and 1/3, which is about, say, right there. All right, and so once we've drawn those in, we're going to draw in our curves. And remember, the way that our curves look is they're going to get closer and closer to the asymptote without ever actually crossing it. Okay, so we draw this leg of it. It gets closer and closer without actually crossing it, and put an arrow on the end. Same thing here. It's going to get closer and closer without actually crossing it, and put an arrow on the end. Okay, and then the same thing for the other branch. Go back to the other branch. You're going to draw your curve through so that it's getting closer and closer to the asymptote without actually crossing it. And then on this side, same thing. Notice that it will cross the axis, okay? Especially if the axis is close to the asymptote. Sometimes people don't want to cross that, but nope, you make sure that you're making it go close to the asymptotes, but not crossing them. And that's it.